Andalusia Marine, located in Andalusia, Alabama, your express, all-weld stick steering, Polarcraft, Starcraft, veranda pontoon dealer. One call heating, air, and refrigeration, Mr. Stephen Dubb, air conditioning guy you can trust. RMC Mechanical Contractors, located in Chelsea, Alabama. Give us a call for all your industrial contracting needs. Styler Arms, located in Bessemer, Alabama. You can also pick these rifles up at Simmons Sporting Goods. That is a Steyr Scout in that picture. I've been hunting with a pro hunter for about 30 years, guy. One of the finest rifles made. Pick one up today, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Alpha Plumbing, Mr. D. Robinson. He's been with us since day one. Call him for any of your plumbing needs, a plumbing guy you can trust. CT Ward Power Sports, Camden, Alabama on Highway 28. Your Excel center console, side console, golf your pontoon, Hustler Lawnmower, and Mercury and Yamaha service dealer. Power brakes. If you want to get your total boat control under control, get you a set of these. Give old Chad Clifton a call, www.mypowerbrakes.com. All right. Here we go. We're live, guys. We had to thank our sponsors real quick. I hope it didn't bother too many people. It ain't but about a minute to kind of get this thing, get everybody situated. Let's see. We got Mike Kurt. He's tuning in from YouTube. Appreciate you. Wesley Scarborough, Jess Pratt, Chuck Tung Stahl. I want to say his name right. Greg Hammett, Philip Donson. Greg said he's frying up some fresh mullet tonight. You see that, Johnny?
I did. I got a little dose of them. My buddy
awesome.
Greg, he didn't forget about me. He brought me some over here to the house.
That's awesome. I've never ate mullet. Holden Higgs tuning in from old Louisiana. I appreciate you tuning in.
For real?
Yeah, there's Holden. There's Brandon Lutz.
No, I'm saying you never eaten mullet before.
No, I never ate mullet. No, I haven't. I've always heard. I don't recall if I have. Mr. Tim Maddox up there, he's tuning in from YouTube. He's been busting some fish up here at Bankhead. Big Daddy's been posting some of his fish, so I've seen a few of them. He said he's having to feed them minnows, but he's been catching some. Mr. Brandon Thomas, Dave Gids from Georgia. Larry Woodard, he's from Waco, Texas. Appreciate you tuning in, Larry. Larry Waller, excuse me. I'm sorry. I got my glasses on and still messed that up. Sean Nietzsche, I guess. I hope I pronounced that right. Hello from Central Kentucky. Appreciate you tuning in, bud. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We got 30 people on here pretty quickly. We're going to go into we're about to end the summer, guys, and man, we're fixing to get into fall fishing. I like fall fishing as much as anybody. I know John and Jessica do for sure. So.
Yeah, I like fishing all week, every time of the year.
That's true. It's a lot more comfortable, guys, when it cools down. And those fish bump up a little bit more, and they don't have, like John and I were talking about on that in-depth series. They don't have as bad attitude when it starts cooling down. So. Old Corey Newby, he's up in Norfolk, Virginia. Go ahead, John.
It's nice, when you get this first part of fall where all the fish are still, bunched up together because they're pushed up together, and they start feeding better. And so, you can really have a big time here in the next month and a half.
Yeah, that's
months.
right.
I mean.
Oh yeah. Probably, till it gets cooler, and then they'll move a little bit on you, but. A lot of people want to wait till spring, but you can catch a lot of fish in the fall.
Right. They're so bunched up right now, and, as it gets cooler, it'll make them spread out more and more and more. But if you can get them, a time when they're eating good and they're bunched up, man, big times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said, I look forward to seeing there's old Mr. Jacob Myers. Appreciate you tuning in. I'm looking forward to, seeing everybody's pictures, man. I get fired up when I get on Facebook and start scrolling through, and I'm, there's some pictures. There's some pictures. You start to see more and more, and it cools off a little bit. And the dove hunters start, and the hunters start, and then not too many people on the water. And go ahead, John.
We got our boat back. Well, not finally. It was down a short period. I've been a prop shaft, being a dummy, running my mouth, and but I got the old prop shaft. I said I was going to hang it up down there at
like
the
boathouse.
Yeah, I'm going to put a sign below the prop shaft that says "Casualty of Lake Seminole."
Yeah,
so,
Lake Seminole, guys. If you hadn't been there, when John and Jessica and I and Kevin Hicks and Scott and Corey come over there, and my buddy Tommy, we went down there a couple weeks ago, and man, John and them kind of took off running through the channel, and I was like, I looked at Corey, I said, I have no idea. And man, we were going out through there, and as soon as the first buoy I passed, I looked, there's a tree, a stump bigger around than I am. And I said, yeah, I mean, right by the buoy, I said, no. And there is some, I'd like to seen that thing back in the day when all that was standing. I bet that was an awesome sight.
No doubt. I got to retell the story a little bit. We were all sitting there. It's right at daylight. Shane's over there talking, of course. And
of course, yeah.
And I throw my hand up. I'm like, we finna ride. And I guess, I don't know, Shane was doing something. And when I said we're about to ride, we left out. Shane said, you left me.
Well, Corey's like, man, they went right. And I was like, okay. And then we didn't realize that channel, y'all kind of swung right and then went, But once Corey and I got to looking around, we ran into Kevin and Jessica right there that morning and caught a few fish. And
you ended up right across the channel.
Right across from John. Yeah. So, but hey, I'll tell you, anytime you get in a new area like that, John's been there a couple of times. There's no sense in being in a hurry, especially if you don't know a lot about it.
Because it's that dangerous. Absolutely.
It's a
if
dangerous
my hat
place.
turned backwards, we're skint.
Yeah, Jessica. You ever see Jessica take a hat and turn it around? You better be ready.
I know. When John and Jessica came down to Miller's Ferry in October, or no, it was.
Yeah,
John
you
was
left me. Shane left us that morning.
And John and Jessica was like, hey, she said a few choice words. She said he'd come running up here 55 miles an hour. I was laughing. It was at 1st October, which it wasn't cool. I mean, it wasn't that cool. So
it's pretty breezy that morning. We had
Ryan Dooley's on here. There's old Mr. Ryan.
There's my boy.
He was on the show. John Shores. I am privileged to fish one of the best fall and winter crappie lakes in the USA, Lake of the Pines. There you go, John. We kind of had a little conversation about that. We might be coming to see you, Mr. John. Maybe this fall. I don't know. I keep hearing stories and seeing the. Steve from Limits Tackle sent me a picture the other day of a giant he caught.
Ooh,
I mean, it was a big
toad. Yes,
I don't know how long that fish was. 18 inches. I mean, it was huge.
Big hybrid.
It was a big giant fish. That I don't know. Texas is definitely on the radar. I promise you that. Ryan Dooley said he is mowing and listening. He's got a lawn service. He is busy. I guess is he going to Eufaula for the championship?
Dooley is, yeah.
Okay.
Ryan's in the top in the country, or top in
he's ranked on up there.
He's close to top 5 angler of the year on the National Crappie Master Trail. I mean, Ryan Dooley's had a good year. Not only is he a great fisherman, great guy, he'll do anything for you if you call and ask him anything. If he might take a break off the lawn, he cuts grass for a living, but when he takes a break, he'll call you back and help you out any way he can.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. We had him on the show a few weeks back. I can't remember when it was. He gets these weeks fly by, man. I look up and I'm doing Big Daddy's show on Wednesday night, and then I look up and it's Thursday. Next thing I know, it's Friday's here. It flies by. Oh, Kevin's tuned in right now, guys. I know y'all got a few questions because we're getting in this fall transition, man. I got a few pictures to share as far as dealing with some mapping, because that's the next topic John and I are going to go into when this in-depth series. We got to film another part. We've got a couple in the bag. I'm actually talked to Andrew today, and I've got my stuff. I got to finish filling it out where we can apply to Apple Radio and Spotify and get approved, and we're going to let them rip. You guys will be able to listen going down the road and all that good stuff. So there's old Curtis Nix. Says I will probably need an electronics trip for live scope soon. There you go, Curtis. Hey, cut that learning curve down, man. If you can go out with somebody that knows.
Where do you live, Curtis?
Where you live there, Curtis?
Yeah. If you live closer to Shane, get up with him. If you live closer to him.
We'd be glad to show you. That's one thing we can't control, Curtis. You can't control the stupid fish. They're going to bite or they're not. But the learning electronics and getting all the questions and showing you what not to do, it will save you a lot of time. It's well money spent. He's in Tuscaloosa, so he's not far.
Right.
He's not far. He's not far from me. Kevin Hicks said he found some donkeys on Neely yesterday.
Hey, Curtis, we'll go up there and fish Nick Saban's dock, if you want to.
Yeah, that's right. He's right there on Lake Tuscaloosa. And hey, the football season kicks off this Saturday. I know a lot of people watch that stuff. So I'm glad, man.
Ready?
Football season's a fun time. Everybody's in a good mood. It gives people something to talk about, and I miss a lot of the games. If I'll catch them at night. I'm usually fishing, so but it's a good thing. It's a good reason to get people together, also. So
Jessica
let's.
and I we're going permitting. We're going mullet fishing again this weekend.
That's right.
We had a little we had a little mishap. We caught everything but mullet this past weekend. We went to an area that it, they weren't there. We had a slick out go. I mean, we had all the feed they could ever have wanted. But we had fun. Jessica hooked
Caught a
in.
nice carp.
Yeah, not she
Caught a
trophy
big blue cat. Net man failed here on
had
epic fail.
Yeah, John had got some mullet and made some smoked mullet dip,
I
and he said
did.
it was
It
just
did, man. It got me turned on to it. And I, it's a redemption tour this weekend. We
yeah.
we're I've got we're going after them.
Yeah, I know this is CrappieKast and all that stuff, but man, it's interesting listening to the way they fish for these mullets, and they taste good. I mean, it sounds like something if you can get a good area, you can carry a kid and have a blast with them. I mean,
You can, but it's like a super super sensitive bite. If you see like a little vibration or anything come off your cork, or what, if you're doing that, or you see the line jump the slightest little bit, you better be setting the hook. But like I had a friend of mine, he went this week and I think they had like 170 or something like that.
that's
But I
awesome.
mean, it can be on or you can have a bad trip. But we still had a great trip because we were hanging out with friends and we were still catching fish. It just they weren't what we were wanting to catch. Uh, Jessica hooked into I'd say probably a 15-pound blue cat. The one pass it made by that I should have netted it. But people, I will say this: you don't realize how hard it is to net something when you're standing in water that is this deep,
Oh yeah, I
rather
guarantee
than
you.
when you're above it on the
Yeah,
boat
you're
trying.
because a lot of the
Yeah,
handles in the water. So
yeah.
I would.
Well, and then your view of the fish is different. So, but that's enough about mullet fishing. Let's get
Yeah,
into
that's true.
crappie. Let's get it. Yeah, let's get into
Yeah,
crappie
let's get
fishing.
into CrappieKast. We can talk
Um,
about that stuff all night for sure. Curtis, I see where he said he. Man, Curtis just messaged me, man. We'll get together, and when you get it mounted up.
we're
Okay.
around here. I'll just kind of throw out what the fish are doing here. Uh, Channel ledges with stumps. Uh, Fish are pushed up to if you can find the right level of water, you can find on some stumps 100 to 200 fish will be on one stump. It's amazing. I
Yeah, I
sent
remember
Shane
sending
some.
me some pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I sent Shane some side imaging pictures that were like, whew, loaded. And this time of the year, about this time last year, it was I was taking buddies and it was just 2-man limits after two
Yeah,
man
I
limits
remember. I remember
quickly,
that's
you know, and it's like that again. So if you want to
that's
have a big
awesome.
time, just throw small jigs. If you want to throw some live bait in there, if they're super hard headed, but if you're somewhere that you got a mix of black and white crappie, you're gonna catch the majority white crappie right now because the black crappie, like I said, are more hard headed. But
Yeah, they still
um,
got that bad attitude for
yeah, they
sure.
do, but gosh, they're stacked up and it's a big time.
Let's see. Chuck, he messaged me. Have y'all done any comparison between the Helix Mega Side Imaging and a Garmin SV? He's looking at both the 9 inches. I mean, we got to talk when we was talking to Shiloh. I mean,
Oh, I do a lot of side imaging, and I have been on the boat with a lot of things other than hummingbird. Um, when people ask me, like somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to set my boat up. Tell me what you would do." I recommend hummingbird for side imaging. That's me, and I'll share my settings with you and where I start from. If you'll message us, we've had it on here before, but now in saying that, I've talked with Shiloh before, and Shiloh showed me some pictures of where he's side imaging with that Garmin and doing really well too.
yeah,
But I think uh, people that have run Humminbird side imaging, Mega side imaging, uh, they can really get it dialed in, and you can see some stuff. I think that you might miss on some other ones. That's just my personal opinion. Please don't
Yeah,
quote
right.
me on
Well,
that.
you've been running a hummingbird for a while. Eric has too. I mean, John can jump in the boat and just toot, 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 and it's ready to go. And if you got a deal, if you already got a 9-inch chuck, a Garmin. But if not, hey, and the good thing about that Helix, if you get it, and you can always, upgrade to a bigger unit and then put that Helix up front and use it for mapping. But there's nothing wrong with any. Old Brandon Threadgill's tuned in. He's up there at the championship. I hope he's catching some fish. I hope he does well up there. He's at the Crappie Masters National Championship on Eufaula, in that Lake Eufaula, right? Yeah.
No, this is the elites this weekend.
Oh, the elite. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's the
True.
elites. I'm sorry. I get them all confused. It's the elite.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
It's elite. I think you're right. Oh, I wish him some luck, man.
Here
Brandon
we
was
go.
on.
Kegel.
Always on.
I love it. Wow.
He cut.
Read
Eric cut up. Eric cut up with me last night on. Here we go. Well, I'll let Jess answer it.
Yeah, he was just
True
going to
man.
answer it.
Yeah, that's what it says. Look at here. Eric Cagel's tuned in. He was calling me ugly on Big Daddy's broadcast last night, and I got to laughing, and nobody knew it till Big Daddy posted it. Eric says, what water temp in Alabama do the bigger males and females move off the brush and start winter schooling? I'd like to know Jess to answer. He'd like.
She's working on. All right, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, she's done it enough.
After the water column rolls over.
Yeah, what temp? Somebody asked it. What temperatures does that water roll over? Somebody was asking. Brandon Lutz was asking when the fall transition starts. We can kind of put these questions together.
That's a great question. You start seeing the when that water temp at the top starts cooling back off, and I've been on the boat with Eric before, and he'll say, you see those bubbles? You start seeing more bubbles come up, and he say it's about to roll over, and what happens is the water starts getting closer to the same temp top to bottom, and then it'll turn over, roll. Not just turnover is a negative thing, because people think about fish dying, but the rollover is So when your water temps start getting closer, that you're from top to bottom.
Right. It's more consistent instead of being 90 something and running down. But yeah, I don't know I guess when does it really start? Is that in December? Is that when they start the blackfish start schooling up the bigger? Is that about December usually, John? Or is it November? Or when is it? I mean, I'm just.
Well, here around the house, I've seen it. November. It's actually kind of sad for me at times, because it takes them a while where they start getting together, because I like to see them where they stack up on that timber, and because I've got certain places I recognize. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna go here, and then I start seeing fewer and fewer and fewer, and then I realize they're releasing, and once they release, they'll be spread out for a little bit. Those big schools, sometimes they'll stay together, but then sometimes it might take them a while to get back together. When they start running together in those packs, those black crappie are the biggest ones to do it. They'll get schooled up, and you can spend a whole day just chasing fish.
I know Eric comes back from Grenada. What, in October, John? Yeah, he comes back usually in October, and I know he starts
September this year.
Is it?
But the thing about that, when you start looking for those schools, you can get in the boat and just side imaging, and you can pick those schools up on side imaging, mark them, and whoop the boat around with live scope and run back to where you just marked them if you can see your mark in the front of your boat. Or you can take that live scope and just run it way out in front of you and scroll slowly left and right. You can pick up on those big schools, and you can have one heck of a day just chasing schools. I mean,
I went to visit Eric, back in February, and they were guiding him and Patrick Stone. I think Patrick Stone was over there. He was, and Jameson was down there, and me and Jameson went out and chased a few. And the next day, Eric just pointed me over there. He said, "Look, man, go get in that creek." And man, I had 30 fish before 9 o'clock, myself.
Here's the thing about chasing schools is, typically Jessica and I throw a 16th ounce jig, and that's the main thing we throw. When you go to chasing those schools, you can throw a 16th if you can get out in front of them the jig out in front of them and let it fall in front of them where you're at their level where they can still see it. If not, sometimes you have to throw a heavier jig. So before that fish, all right, say here's the school of fish, and they're going to be going left, right, left, right. You want to get that jig down on them before they decide to go right after you've thrown, if that makes sense. Uh, the, the, the best thing that I can tell people to do is if you can get directly behind that school and they're going in one direction and you throw it out in front of your boat and then and where they can see it, that's the easiest way. But when those fish start like moving in all different directions, it can be tough. You got to use a heavier jig to get on top of them and get it down to them
Yeah,
before
I know
they change.
Eric was telling me, he's like, man, they school on Jones, they school on every body of water. And I'm like, man, I'm at Miller's Ferry, I'm on the river. And I'm like, what? You know, I laugh because there was a limb on the side of the riverbank that I was fishing. It had 4 big crappie on it. One of them was pushed, I think it was a 180 something. It was a big crappie, and I caught it. And his 3 buddies took off across the river. And I go over there, and there's 4 big trees down, 200 yards apart. And that's when it was super cold here in Alabama, last year, and it pushed all those shad down. And I looked up, and I was like, here comes a school. I was like, Eric told me they'd be schooling somewhere on that river, and I just let the current pull me back, and I just pitched a quarter-ounce jig at them, because the big fish were moving and the boat was moving, and we caught 51 pretty quick, man. I was like, man, I ain't believing it. They're actually schooling on the river, and they really did, on the main river. I was in 50 foot of water.
Yeah, well, this Kevin Hicks asked a good question that kind of goes into what you're. Yeah, he says once they move off and school up, what depth should I look for them? All right, so possibly what you saw too, Shane, was they were at a certain level because that's where the bait was at.
That's exactly right.
When they start schooling like that, they're going to school and go in lines, but they're always going to try to be below that bait. That way, when they're schooling around, a bait ball or a school of shad or whatever comes, in their view, they're going to come up and feed. And when they do, it is awesome to watch on live scope.
Yeah, well, what was crazy, John, is they were striped pushing those bait balls up. I seen them. I said, they're striped. Me and Tommy and they were pushing the bait balls up, and Lord, here comes nose down, big black crappie. They had their nose down coming up through there just eating away. And I was like, and they told me it would happen. And I've got to look around that river, see if I can repeat that pattern. But I don't know if those big trees had something to do with the bait hanging out there. But it was a crazy scenario because they were on that one stretch of the river doing it.
And if you want to push poles or spider rig or anything like that, when you find that bait at that level, that time of the year, you can set those baits at that depth and run it. And you can actually, what some people call power troll, where you got those baits set at a certain depth and move at a little bit faster speed. And you can run around and keep those baits where they're right there at the level of the shad. Just run over the lake and cover a lot of water, have a big spread out, and catch a lot of fish.
Yeah, man. To me, that is the funnest style of fishing, catching crappie there is chasing those schools and those wolf pack people call them. I mean, it is awesome to watch. I mean, address Jameson's question. He was, are you and John fishing the Wally Marshall tournament in Logan Martin? We're not. We're going to be at the Crappie Expo, Jameson. Come hang out with us, buddy. Booth number 7, the 22nd through the 24th. We'll be interviewing Eric when he's leading that thing, so he's going to come sit in with us. So, but no, Jameson, we're going to be at the Expo, buddy. We're going to be kissing babies and shaking hands and all that good stuff. But let's go back to, yep.
I hope we're not that we're not pulling for anybody that's out of state, but we're hoping when those Alabama boys are they're there that last day, and we get to interview them.
I hope they do.
They tell us the keys to what it took to win.
Exactly. Here, Kevin, we'll go back into chasing the schooling fish. I just want to address Jameson's question before we got past it. Kevin says, should we look more in the main body or creeks or sloughs when they start schooling there?
So think about where they are now that you're dealing with them, and just think about where they're released from now. And heck, here's the thing about it is, if you're catching those fish on structure now out on main lake or the river channel, those fish might come off what you're catching them on, go school, run around for a while, and you might come back later in the day, they'll be right back there again.
Exactly.
They don't just always stay out there at school, and they'll go back and I don't know if they're resting or what they're doing, taking a break, but you come and find them, sitting
I,
on
those
big
fish I
brush
were telling
piles
you,
or
yeah.
big one stick up, and they might just stop on that for a minute.
Well,
And
that's
and
what those
what's
fish were doing. I caught. They were
and
under
what
that limb, John, and just sitting 4 deep. And when I caught one, they took off. Where y'all
and
going?
what's
I mean,
and what's funny about that I've noticed is it's like a lead fish a lot of times in the pack. And if you ever get that lead fish to turn, the whole school will just
it's
like,
they're
whoo,
they're like a
yeah.
flock of geese. No kidding. They look like a flock of geese, guys. They're just sitting there in that lead. When, like John's saying, it is. I wish I had some pictures to share. I got some from when we were on the Coosa River, but it was they were pretty deep, so it's hard to see. But those wolf
I got some
packs,
video that I'll share with Shane that
yeah, we'll
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 put
put
on
it
for
on here
next
next time.
week. And
Yeah,
I mean, I've got some video, where it's active captain and I'm tossing in on schools, and you just see the whole school just turning. And when I
yeah.
say
Y'all need to
school,
see this. That is
yeah,
the most.
it might be 60 or 80 fish at one time turn up, and just you're like, holy crap. But
Well, the
that,
good news is when I talked to Eric about it, he was confirming what I seen, and then we went to Lake Talcott, and it was Murderville. When we went down there, they were stacked up. We were had some fun. So let's see. Chuck Beam said I found a school the other day, but I couldn't keep up with them. They seemed to be going in a full big circle. Wow.
hey, all right, here's a good tip. All right, if you're somewhere and those fish are schooling, like black crappie, they're gonna keep moving. I mean, you catch one of them, you jerk one out of there. If you're fishing with somebody, get that person that's fishing with you. If they can't run the trolling motor and make it go, at least show them how to look around and keep their eye on the school. So if it's only like a school of say 6 to 10 fish, let them, and you're taking the fish off, you're dealing with it, you're getting ready to throw it in the live well, at least let them take that trolling motor and look around and say, all right, I want you to stay with the school. So, because what happens is, I've seen a school before, like you take a fish out of it and then they go sit on the bottom.
Hmm.
Well, you don't want to spend the next few minutes looking around trying to find it again. You, it's better to have whoever's with you, if they can, keep their eye on it, and they're like, even if you have to adjust and shoot out further, but let them keep their eye on where those fish went,
That's what me and
because
Tommy had to do on a point because the wind that time of year, guys, the wind's blowing, and you Tom, I would get down taking a fish off. Say, hey, Tommy, keep up with that school, and he'd run his foot over there and push the trolling motor. At least he could keep me in the general area. Say, hey, man, they're right there. And then we'd try to back up and cut them back off. And I'm looking
what
forward to using those rear trolling motors doing this because it's going to change the game big time. I mean,
that's right.
being able to
People,
back up,
what people
turn
don't
fast.
realize, when you get out of that trolling motor, and let's just say you've got a port side wind blowing on you, and let's say it's a 8 to 9, it's blowing pretty good. All right, if once that boat starts drifting, that nose starts drifting like this, you're gaining ground this way so quickly you can never imagine.
Oh, yeah.
So, somebody that with you, I'll usually hit spot lock if I'm by myself,
Right.
but somebody that's with you that can zoom out and just keep their eye on those fish, it is so helpful.
That's why I'm learning now.
Yeah, she's learned. Hey, we went the other day and we caught she with her running the trolling motor. We caught
That's
a
good. Hey,
good
like I said,
good
she,
bit of
she
fish.
knows what
Yeah,
it's supposed to look like, and so now she just got to know what it feels like with her foot. I mean, that's what I tell people when you go with somebody like Eric. And the first time I went with Eric and we seen live scope, Shane Welch and I, we went to a brush pile, and I said, man, that's a big fish, and we busted a couple, and I was like, man, I see my jig and all that. And then there was still more fish in there. Eric said, hey, man, we got to go, and I'm like, but those fish they weren't going to do anything, and he knew that from fishing those brush piles, and we moved, and I wasn't running the trolling motor, but when I got my live scope installed, I thought, man, I'm gonna go over here and run this thing, and I pointed it at something, the boat moved, I'm lost. It takes a little while to get used to doing that stuff.
well, and another thing, when they are starting school, if they're sitting on brush, they're more likely to bust and move and start schooling away from the thing. And when they do that, don't get freaked out. Like, because you'll see them, they'll peel off and they'll start looking like a trail of stuff leaving what you were fishing. Stay with them. Just get ahead of one of the fish that get their attention. Just stay ahead. Just keep tossing that jig out in front of them and getting their attention. And once you get the hang of like chasing those fish and doing it, it is a lot of fun because it's
It
like
is.
it's active hunting. Is what it is.
It is. It's a different. It's a kind of a different. I'm gonna say rush as far as chasing those fish. It's like I said, it is so much fun to be able to do that, and they do it all fall. I mean, to I guess up in February they're still trying to do it. In a
I mean,
lot of places.
some of the best chasing I've ever done was in February, early
Right.
February.
That's exactly right. Let's see. Bill House, is there a place to find out what exhibitors manufacturer will be at the expo? Matter of fact, I can. Well, I was
Look 'em
finna
up,
say
Shane.
I had a. Hang on, Bill. You keep talking, John, about something, and
I
I'll
will.
look.
Hey, uh, we were talking about finding big schools on side imaging. All right, so don't get yourself tricked when you're side imaging looking for schools of fish. If you want to go side imaging and look for them, not look for them just with a live scope. So big schools of shad also show up. It'll be a school of shad, but you can when you get the eye for it, you can tell that when you see a bigger school of crappie that the returns will look different. Those individual fish in that school you'll see are bigger. They'll be bigger dots, I guess I should say. So what happens is you mark that, and when you do, you want to come back to it, of course, with your live scope. But don't do some of the stuff I've done in the past and forget to delete that waypoint that you marked out on side imaging. Because I'll go to places fishing, and I'm like, what was I marking right here? There's nothing there. And what it is, it's a waypoint from where I was marking schools, during the winter, and I forgot to delete it. So once you get done chasing the school, just a tip, remember to delete that waypoint if you marked it on side imaging.
Some man, dadgummit, there's some reason they didn't want to see him, but who was asking me, Bill? I'll read off some of them. Uh,
It's
Bear
like
Creek
90.
Baits. It's like there's a ton of guys, man. There Top Hat Jigs, Crappie Now. Man,
Shane,
there's I think there's a
instead,
hundred vendors.
yeah, instead of trying to read them all off, why don't you just put it on Shane Jones Fishing, Crappy
Yeah,
Cat,
I'll put it
whatever.
on my fishing
Yeah,
page. That way you'll be able to see it, guys.
yeah,
For some
because
reason I
it's
couldn't get it. It's a bunch of
anything you can
vendors, man.
imagine from nut companies to Ford Motors to any bait company you can imagine.
I
I
know
mean,
Garmin's
there's
going to be there. Express, Bass Cat. Of course, it's going to be. It opens up Friday, 9 or 10 o'clock Friday, and it closes at 6 p.m. that night, and then it's from 9 to 6 Saturday, and I think it's from 10 to 6 Sunday or something like that. So there's plenty of time to get in there, man. There's going to be all kinds of vendors inside that place.
a great point. Kevin just said this is your last day. You need to get your new
Oh yeah,
fishing license.
yeah,
Here in
Alabama, it
that
sure
state of
does.
Alabama, we that's our last day. Yeah, or get your new hunting license.
Yep,
All of it.
you're right. Yeah,
Alabama's
Clinton
kind of
Tyson's
backwards.
asking. They'll be selling all kinds of jigs there, Clinton. There's 20 different jig makers going to be there. I've seen several of them. I know a bunch of them's going to be there, bud. We're going to be sitting right there on the corner.
Yeah, and if you show up with a kid, come by our booth until I run out of material. All the kids that come by. I'm gonna let them pick a jig color, the Chanel, and which color tail they want for their jig, and
Yeah,
tie jig
Todd's going.
for the kids. Just
Yeah,
something extra.
yeah, we're going to have some fun, guys. Y'all come, like I said, come meet us. We see a lot of names on here, and put a face with a name. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'll remember. I know my license expired, and I usually have it auto renewal, but my card expired that I had it registered in, and now I got to go back and fix all that mess. So shallow fishing during the expo. I don't know. I don't think Shallow is not fishing the expo, is he? I'm sitting here
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah, he is.
is he? Okay, I couldn't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
he's
Charlotte's
yeah.
fishing it. Yeah,
Okay.
because we had to come. He's gonna come by and hang out with us.
Travis Hudson
Yeah.
said he'll be there Friday. Good to see you, Travis. Travis just finished second in the championship in dips championship. He done real
He
well. He
did.
had 9 pounds or something. He done real good.
We need to try to get Travis and Scott on and talk to them about
Yeah,
fishing
yeah,
that championship. It'd be great if we could have both of them on and just kind of talk about the
yeah.
things
Because
they
I
did.
know I talked to
Because
Scott and he said I feel like I've been dam to dam. He covered some water. I'm sure Travis did too. So.
kudos to those guys fishing this time of the year. It's this hot, and they kept those fish alive. And this is just
Oh yeah,
like we're talking about. This is past weekend. 100-degree, 105 heat index, and they kept their fish alive all day.
I sure did.
You know,
That,
people don't realize how hard that is.
Wade Cole's
Oh,
asking
what?
great
Our
question.
last tournament, like we didn't do anything, and they all stayed alive.
Yeah, but you don't have that. Yeah.
Wade's saying I have so many waypoints that I accidentally hit. Is there a way to clear that? There's a way to clear those waypoints out. I don't know what you got. If you
Well-
got a hummingbird, how does he do it, John?
Well, here's the deal. If you come over one, you're like, why did I do this? I shouldn't have. So if it's on the graph that you made the waypoint on, you just arrow over to it, and then you'll hit menu, and then it'll take you into those options. You actually click on that waypoint, and then there'll be an option there where you can delete it. And once you hit delete, it's going to ask you, you'll hit yes once, and then it's like, all right, boy, you sure? And you hit yes again.
Yeah,
And,
I remember doing that.
yeah.
I know,
So,
guys. You bring that up, saving your waypoints, because I talked to Eric and John about it. It's real simple to save your waypoints on there. Put an SD card in there and a couple buttons, and you can save them.
For a safety, for a peace of mind, people, I would save mine once a month, but I do not personally do that. I should. I would recommend doing it once a month if you're fishing a lot, because you never know what's going to happen. If you lose one of those graphs, there's only certain things they can do to it to recover the data off of it. But if you're saving those waypoint starts, if you're bringing all your graphs up and you're pulling the data, if they're linked together, you can pull all those waypoints off of it and put it in whichever platform that your graph provides. Like if it's Humminbird, it'll be Humminbird PC. You can save all those waypoints, and you'll have them in case you have a secondary way to store them. In case, like if I lost the waypoints that are up, like on my front graph, the ones I've actually like taken live scope and gotten right over the brush pile and marked,
Right.
it would hurt. It would hurt.
Yeah, that's fine. That's when you're fine tuning it. Like you said, when you know your boat's position and you're catching fish and you hit the button.
Yeah, when you come to that zero line and you hit mark, you know you got it. It's about as accurate.
That's exactly right. But yeah, there's ways to delete them. You just got to really get in there, Wade, and play. I don't know if you have a Humminbird or a Garmin, but both of them are about the same as far as deleting waypoint. I think in the Garmin you can actually put a icon, a brush pile. There's a tree. There's all kinds of stuff. I don't know if you can do that with a Humminbird or not.
You can name it multiple things.
Yeah.
My really good spots, I put a skull and crossbones. Skull and crossbones on.
There you go. But that's what's cool about being able to save all those waypoints. They're easy to save and marking and all that good stuff. Let's see if I missed any questions. Aaron Knight's going to be there. Yeah, he's going to be at the Crappie Expo fishing it. Sure is. Shallow
Guys,
fishing it.
It's going to be so awesome. It's going to be.
It's going to be fun, guys. You got to realize that we got a bunch of hometown people right there, man. It's going to be fun.
As it gets a little closer, we'll start. We might run a little giveaway and let people guess some who's going to win and maybe some weights and it's not going to be that easy. And then we might narrow it down. Might do a little mini podcast and for the last day and say, all right, we got these guys left. What y'all think? And what do you think?
Yeah, that's right. We can play a little. Hey, we can have some fun. With the top whatever guys. Chad Clifton sending me a power brake display, which that's great. You're gonna be able to sit there. I got to build a stand for it. I'm gonna build it this next week. Go down to the shop and where you'll be able to deploy that power brake and put your hands on it and get to see how it's built. A lot of people, that's a good bit of money for people that haven't been on a boat or had the opportunity to do it. And we're going to have one right there at our booth. You'll be able to just drop it and pick it up and put your hands on it. That way, it may help make a decision to buy you a set of them.
Jessica can talk about that right quick. I mean, how easy it is to.
Yeah, she's done it a bunch.
She did a video,
easy.
Yeah, that video got about 10, 15,000. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, talk about,
I mean, Hit your little button, pull it, push it down. I mean, pull your pin. I mean, it's the simplest thing ever.
It is.
Like,
It's
it's
just
super
just
easy.
remembering to get them up, and I've
I
taken off a few times with mine and snapped the Carter key and had to put the Carter key back in and put some new ones.
how
But
easy
anytime though, you put your power poles down or power brakes, take your key out of your ignition and put it in your cup holder. Always,
That's a,
always,
that's
always.
that's a
That way,
that's a
when you
great
get
tip,
back and ready
Jess.
to
That's a
go,
great tip.
you'll never forget that they're down. You won't forget it
it'll
again.
remind you, yeah. What would you say? Those power brakes, you could pull 2 fingers. You could pull.
Oh
You could
yes.
pull it back in.
I'll say the right one to me is easier to pull. I can do it with my right foot release. The left one I'm like all wobbly, but yeah, they're super easy. I use my foot to hit
Release.
the little release.
Now, I was just talking about pulling it back in.
Oh, they're
I feel like you
super.
could take one finger probably and just
Yeah.
pull them back in.
One day I'm gonna try to like grab both at one time and pull them in
Yeah, that'd be
together, just for
and giggles.
yeah.
hmm. Uh-oh. It's starting they're starting to talk
There
it
we
up.
go. Yeah, somebody Sirius Radio tried to call me, and I tried, and for some reason it kicked all my Bluetooth stuff off, guys. I'm sorry about that.
Uh, Chad said Kegel's going to be hard to beat on the Coosa River. I think he's got some unfinished business from the last one.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
every year he's in the top, and
yeah. Brad,
if
I
you're in
think
the
they
top,
finished second, right? Him and Scott and Brandon Threadgill and
mhm,
uh, Crappie Ninja. They were third, right? Something like that, right?
that's
Oh, yeah,
right.
if I remember right, yeah, they were.
Every year they're in that top five. So, you know, if you keep striking right there consistently, it's just a
Oh yeah,
matter of time.
we're gonna deal with mostly blackfish. There are gonna be some whitefish found at that thing, I'm sure. So, but hey, that plays into most of them guys' game. That's what they like. They're gonna get tuned up at Del Holla because it's gonna be next month. I know. Isn't Del Holla in October?
Yeah,
No.
Old Hickory.
Oh, Hickory. Why did I say Del
Yeah,
Holla? It was last
yeah,
year. Was Del Holla?
that's
Oh,
right.
Hickory. I know it's
It's the
one of them lakes in Tennessee.
yeah, it's the pool low Del Hall. But it's going to fish totally different than Del Hollow because I've been looking at it a little bit because
Yeah.
Tim Pentecost and I are going to fish together on it. I'm
Travis
like,
asking a great
oh,
question.
I thought you were doing the.
No, I'm sorry.
So
Yeah, I got
Travis,
kicked to the curb.
I don't even. Let me look at
Nah.
this schedule, Travis. He's wanting to know if the expo, the crappie expo, will they be weighing in? Let me look because I was just looking at it.
I Travis, I think they're going to do the weigh-ins at
Hold on,
the
let's see.
launch location the first 2 days, and then the last
The
day.
final weigh-in will be at BJCC. I'm looking at it
Yeah,
right now.
that's right.
Weigh-in at Lincoln's Landing, Friday and Saturday, and then the final weigh-in will be at the BJCC. Travis, sure will. Of course, that's not but about 30. Well, it's not even 25 minutes probably from Birmingham to up there. It's not far. That Lincoln
No,
Landing is a new landing they have built up there. It's nice. So
don't they normally do like a police convoy for the boats to come in? I
probably
think.
when they come into
Yeah,
the
the last
BJCC,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
They'll have time. Like I said, it's open till 6, Travis, every night. But that man, I was just reading the schedule. Hang on, guys, while we're talking about it. There's all kinds of entertainment, drawings. Man, they got a boat show at the Lincoln Landing for sure. Uh, there's all kinds of stuff. I don't know when the fish fry is. I know they have the world's largest fish fry. Let me see when it is. I was just reading it.
I think it's Saturday, isn't it?
I think it is Saturday. I'm
Well,
trying to read
I
it.
tell you what we'll do. We'll post the schedule of events between now and next week, and we can talk about it more.
Yeah, I'll have a
Kind
fine.
of the layout of how everything's going to go.
Yeah,
And,
Travis, I appreciate you asking that. He didn't want a lot of people waiting at the expo, thinking they're coming to weigh in. I
oh,
appreciate you
absolutely.
asking that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I appreciate it,
absolutely.
Travis, because you would assume, they would weigh in at BJCC, but because I know Bassmasters and all do that, but the final weigh-in's going to be there Sunday. So I don't know how they cut it down. Isn't it the top after the first day? I don't know if they cut the field or what they do. I can't remember, man. Last
It
year,
typically it was say 100 to 50 and then to 25, I believe it was. I don't know this year exactly
Yeah, I don't know how many
specifics
signed
of
up.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and there's been, you know, some speculation over that, but we'll know the closer it gets. We'll see. You know,
Yeah, it's going to be a big thing in Birmingham, guys. It's
man,
in Birmingham. It's going to be a huge
the
because a lot of
tournament's
people.
great. The tournament's great, but the things that go with it are great too. So it's just not the tournament. If it's like you know, what I'm saying that you get to see everything that the industry's got, or
Right.
a majority of the thing that crappie fishing industry's got. And they'll be all there under one roof. You can just walk around like, I've always wondered what this was and what this was, and you get to go do some hands-on and like I know a lot of the lure vendors will be like, hey, bud, try this pack of baits out. Tell me if you
Right.
like
I
it.
mean, you're
Buy it. You
going.
know that
Yeah, you're going.
that's their exposure. You know,
I'm gonna have a
it is.
few Lost Creek rods with me at the booth. You want to put your hands on them? I'm supposed to get with Heath and get a few that he's got made for me, and you'll be able to put your hands on them. I'll have, like I said, the crappie breaks display will be there. These third hands, he's sending me some of those. I'll have them right there. So we're gonna be on the corner, so hopefully we'll be able to get us a little crowd going, because it is my hometown. Just it's right in my backyard. So I'm hoping to meet all these people that tune into this show. So, for sure. Let me see if I'm missing every question. Let's see. They're talking about forward-facing sonar. I had a conversation with my boss about this. What do you think about the bass potential? You know what's going to happen, Kevin? They'll never be able to ban it. They're going to cut you down the number of transducers you can have. That's what's going to happen, I think, in my opinion. What do you think, John?
I saw a poll that one of the bass guys, one of the most
Yeah, I seen it.
prominent bass guys, put out, and 75% of the people said they did not want to watch it on TV. People,
Right. Well, it is boring. It's like watching somebody play a
well,
video game. I mean,
I agree with that,
I get
but
it.
here they're used to seeing somebody throwing their elbow out and getting tennis elbow, just cast after cast after
Right.
cast after cast. Well, those bass guys now are like, all right, there's not a fish there, so I'm not going to throw 30 times by that log. I'm going to keep going until I see a fish that I should, target. And
Right.
I can understand, they're used to seeing Kevin Van Dam, even though he's retired now, or
Yeah. I used to watch him when I was a kid, boy.
yeah, where is his wrist and his elbow out pitching jigs, and well now they can target the fish that they need to catch to win.
Yeah.
And
Well, a lot of these guys now, I'm going to go on and say this too. A lot of these old guys are sucking at the game. They're getting left behind and they're crying, and I understand. But I heard some rumors that some of the Japanese guys are taking that new XR, that extended range, and they're mounting them on the back of their boat, facing left and right, and live scanning like you would side scan to find these big smallmouth next to these boulders, and they're taking a Humminbird 360. I mean, these guys are tuning it in. Like I said, I mean, I'm sure the guys, when paper graphs come out, there was some old men raising Cain about that and all that. As long as it's legal and you have to use it to compete, I think it's awesome. I mean, you know, there's people that's won. He's talking about Caps and Coleman's got so many national championships from trolling and all that stuff, and the game just evolved. They're still fishing. You don't hear them belly aching, man. They're still fishing. And if
I
not,
wish
go ahead, John.
I wish Caps Coleman would write a book about the things
Oh
they
man,
did
I never knew
through the
about him out here.
years.
Yeah,
I mean, I've heard some stories, and I know a lot of it's probably not true, and some
I'd
of it
love to
might
get
be
him on
true.
here and just talk about it.
About
But I'll.
about the scuba diving and putting structure in on
Oh
scuba
yeah,
to put
those
it
guys are
in right in
serious,
the
man.
perfect place and right off this break and the things that
Oh yeah,
you hear of them doing. I mean, I know some of it might be rumor or not be true, but man, if they wrote a book or actually did a live thing, something with someone, a live interview and talked about it, it would be amazing to see. And if they actually just sat down in a book and said, all right, this is what all we did to win, it would probably blow your mind.
yeah. That guy that made that video and that poll, he didn't make the Bassmasters Classic this year. So you know, but like I said, I'm all for whatever's legal, man. Just like baiting deer and stuff, you can get in so many arguments about that stuff. But if you're hunting and your neighbor's baiting, you're behind. I mean, I don't care what
Absolutely.
you just are. Same way with
Hey,
forward facing sonar.
yeah,
Go ahead,
that's
Jess.
I have one more power break tip. So, like, when
Go
you
ahead.
pull your pin out, I would know. Yes. Oh, hold on. I'm saying
You
it
pull
backwards.
it, yeah.
When you pull your pin out and let your brakes down, put your pin back in. Because when you pull it back in, if not, it'll get hung in there and you got to bend over. So, like,
That
when you
cable,
pull it
that's
out,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly
It-
right.
Yeah.
I know
There,
Chad was suggesting drill another hole to store it in. That way you could collapse it, you know.
the new ones. All right, so the new ones have got it on the
Yeah,
release. So
Destin,
you just
Destin was asking a question about where we put the brake pedal. I haven't mounted mine permanent. It's just sitting up there because they're coming out with a newer pedal, and they may have one out now. This thing's evolving, which is good about Chad, Zeke, and all them, and they're evolving this product as we go. These power brakes, they're. I talked to Chad, and they're talking about getting a spring, a recoil spring to put on these things instead of the pins. I mean, I talk to him every week, and these things they're gonna be top notch by the time they get through. But they're trying to adapt and move, but I haven't mounted mine. You know, I just got mine sitting up there floating where I know where it is, Destin.
everything that we've recommended to Chad, he's like taking into consideration. I mean, to the point of that rod holder, that third hand rod holder. Shane's like, man, I need something to hold this pole.
Right, and
When
Chad
I'm
busted
dealing
it
with a
right out.
fish or whatever, and they popped. It wasn't anytime they just came out with that.
Yeah, they're sitting right there,
Uh,
and Chad's told me he's mounted them all over his boat. He's supposed to be sending me a picture. So
but if you've got like I fish on the left side, I said this last week. Don't put that thing on the left side of your graph. You keep your graph up high like me, because I was like
yeah,
shooting
yeah,
that jig and I shot it off the side of it, and I was like, gosh dang, what was that? And it was
yeah,
that third hand. So I put mine to the inside because I'm typically always shooting my jig out the left side of my graph because I keep my graphs up high, and so little things like that once you get it, just so handy though. I mean, typically my pole when I'm dealing with a fish, I've caught the fish. I'm trying to set the pole here and there, everywhere. You
yeah.
got that thing that third hand just sticks out there like that.
Yeah,
Eyelet
it does
falls in
good.
there, and you can deal with a fish. So
Yeah,
handy.
this little old third hand.
Where's mine going to go?
I've got so many videos where I've kicked my rod in the water and all that stuff. We got some we're gonna give away at the show, and also you'll be able to put your hands on these. These are machined aluminum, guys, powder coated. They're not junk, and that's a
No,
stout
they're not.
hook. I hang my net on mine on the other side, and all I gotta do is pick that net straight up. You know, when I had the long rod out, I got a minnow on there. I can actually lay it my lap and lay my rod in there, and that minnow can stay in the water as I move. You don't have to hold the
Great.
rod.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of shoulder fatigue out. They're not just a little gimmick to sell and stuff. It was something that Big Daddy needed. But let's see here. Travis is right. Japan so far ahead. They're 5 years ahead of us. They're in Japan. That's where all this stuff's made, guys. They stay. Now you see all these Japanese when they hit that northern swing in the Bassmasters, they were stomping them big fat sawmouth. I mean, they were stomping them. People don't like watching forward facing sonar, but they like watching those 6 and 7 pound and 5.5 pound brown fish hit that deck. You know, the same way with us crappie fishing. I like to see the 15, 16 pounds, the 3 pounders, you know. Uh, let's see what Tommy
Oh,
Keller's asking here. What's
that's
the
a good
advantage of
question.
shooting a jig rather than casting? Go ahead, John.
All right. This is just me personally, and I think this is an advantage to who is running the trolling motor. All right. So if I'm running that trolling motor, and I ever get where I can like see down the beam of the way that live scope's running, I can take that pole and I can pull that jig back. All right, so if I'm making a cast, I'm coming over the top and I'm trying to throw down. So I can actually take that pole, pull that jig up under the pole, and I can shoot it directly down the beam of that live scope. So I'm coming all the way down the beam of the way that live scope's shooting, and then I'm bringing it right back up the beam. That being said, if the nose of my boat is being still. So if I've got some wind that's pushing the nose of my boat this way or back this way, I can totally understand, it might take you out. Another advantage of shooting a jig, pulling it up on the pole and shooting it rather than throwing it over the top and casting is if I've got some wind, I can keep that jig low. A 16th ounce jig, I can keep it low to the water. It's catching less of that wind, and I can be more accurate. I'm not getting my jig pushed left or right. Uh, the more you throw that jig up in the air, and cast, the more the wind can take advantage of it.
But
So if you
I
can,
contribute like golf. You can put a straight line more. You can hit a driver a straight line.
that's
So
right.
It's a straight line to where you're shooting.
it's a straight line to where you're going, Tommy. You can sit there in the yard, man, and get you a Dixie cup and an old jig and learn how to shoot. And when I went with Eric, I was still kind of cast, and there's nothing wrong with it. But when you're trying to put it on a fish and get it as fast as you can to him and see what he's going to do or do and not do, that shooting a jig is way
Well,
more accurate.
and go ahead and start shooting that jig around, because if you get somewhere where there are fish where you're gonna have to shoot a boat dock, you're already ahead of everyone else because you're already shooting a jig. And what I'm saying, all you're doing is just getting that pole down where it's level, parallel with the water, and you can shoot it right up under that dock, and you're already ahead of the game.
Get you a box and turn it sideways and practice shooting in that box. So you have like
Yeah,
that area to like just
Yeah,
practice shooting
that's
into.
a lot of this stuff is done at home. When I carried that 2-star retired general, he got on the boat with me. He goes, "You gonna show me how to shoot a jig?" And I was like, "Sir," he says, "I want to learn how to shoot a jig." I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "That I can guarantee you will happen. Fish, and it was awesome to watch them when we got 20 feet from those fish and they were shooting that jig out there and popping those fish. And it just makes you more accurate, Tommy, to where you're trying to aim with a live scope where the fish are. That, to me, it does. Your instinct kicks in. You've thrown a baseball and everything and stuff like that, but it just dials you in more. To me.
I want to say this. I wish, as a kid growing up, we grew up fishing on little bitty creeks, little bitty small rivers, stuff that we call rivers, most people call creeks. All right, so we'd be up and down the creek bank and the river bank, and you have a little gap in the trees right here. I wish I could have shot a jig when I was that age, and I would have been poking holes in that sycamore or that catawworm tree and just shooting that jig in that eddy hole. Man, to this day, I think about all those scenarios. I was like,
oh yeah, exactly. You didn't hear a lot about it till the Georgia guys, like Crappie Ninja and all them guys. They started shooting a lot of jigs at West Point and Oconee and how you ever pronounce it. But Chad Clifton's asking a great question. We're talking about shooting a jig, Tommy. I appreciate your question, bud. But how long a rod are you using for the shooting? What's the best scenario rod? I mean,
me personally, I want to be. I like that little 5-footer. If you get in, a real tight situation, you're not worried about that rod slapping the dock if you've got to get that close.
right.
Me personally, if I'm shooting a dock, I would not go over 6 foot 6
Yeah.
inches.
Yeah, I've used a 6.6 and done it, just shooting in the open, not trying to shoot under a dock or something. But like John's saying, when you're in a crunch spot, we found a bunch of fish underneath a T-pier down at Miller's Ferry, just a bunch of eaters, nothing crazy. But that guy that was with me, I was showing him how to shoot that jig in there. So like John's saying, 5 to 6.5 feet. But, to me, a fast tip, wouldn't you agree, John? A fast tip really helps that shooting,
And I'm going to tell you another tip. Everybody looks at what they're shooting. All right. So a lot of times you won't have like maybe 2 inches from where that board comes across to the water. If you look at that board, you're going to hit that board. If you'll look about 6 inches at the water in front of that board or in front of that dock, if you'll look at that water and not look at that board, look where you want to hit that water and make it skip up under there, it will help you so much. And it'll be a lot less ding, ding, and more, ooh, I got her under there. I'm doing my count, waiting to count it down and catching fish.
Yeah, I beat the paint off of many. I've beat the paint off of many a jigs doing that. But John's saying, like you said, when you got that gap, if you aim at that water, the lower third instead of that board, it's going to skip up under.
It's nothing to do with aim. Don't look at it. Look at the water. Don't look at the board anymore. Look at the water.
That's a great tip. I mean, this weekend we're going to try that.
She said I never told her that.
Never.
Well,
she just normally
I'm like, ding, ding, ding,
normally she's throwing it over the rail of their pontoon boat, and I'm going like, please don't hook their leather or whatever they've got on.
No, right. I've shot when I went up to Logan. We shot some. I went with Brad Deal, and the first time I went up there, it was 28 degrees, and I had on more clothes than you can imagine. And there was a dock, and there was a gap, 6 inches. You shot beside a lift, a boat lift, and we caught the ton. He was just throwing up there and clicking his bait and letting it fall. We caught so many fish that day, and I was like, I'm fixing to have to learn how to do this because Brad's been doing it for years. But it was awesome. Todd wants to know, what about shooting a jig in the open water using live scope? I shoot 99% of the time now. I don't hardly cast, man.
Shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
It keeping it below that wind. The more loop you get in your line, the more you get more drift you're gonna get.
Yeah, because you don't have a half-ounce spinnerbait or something. You got a 16th-ounce jig or a 32nd.
And here's another thing is when you shoot that jig, if you've got some wind, you start getting a lot of wind, like the loop in your line. If you'll take the tip of your pole and stick it in the water, it'll take that line where it's not in the wind anymore, and you've set that line down on the water. It's going to allow that jig to fall, where that loop was holding that jig up and keeping it from falling, and it was taking you away from your aiming point.
Right.
When that wind is pushing that line and that loop in that line, and it's above the water, where you shot that jig to the left over there, it might move it 3 to 4 feet. Whereas if you'll set the tip of your rod down in the water and allow that jig to fall where you shot it, you're going to be more accurate and get it.
Yeah, that's right. When you cast, your line's not way up here. You've got it closer to the water. But let's see what Philip's asking here. Shane, what size line do y'all shoot? Man, I shoot 8-pound braid. I know John shoots 5 and 6 pound braid. He's got K9 5-pound braid. Eric uses K9 fluorocarbon. There's a bunch of people that use that K9 6-pound fluorocarbon out there, and I guess whatever you're comfortable with, Philip, get it spooled up on a rod and get out in the yard and hey, try to get accurate with it, because most people that I carry and I show them how to shoot a jig, they're like, man, I'm gonna be practicing that at home. I said, that's what it's for, man. Go home and get better at it, because you're not gonna get worse at it. And I promise, it might be the first couple of times you try to go on a dock or something, yeah, but once you get that, and even little kids, man, they catch on to it quick. It's like watching them shoot that jig, because there's not a lot of casting, there's not a lot of effort. You let the rod do the work, and that's a good thing about it.
Another tip, if you are going to shoot jigs around docks and stuff, don't go with that heavier hook. Go with something that is a little bit lighter wire, because you're going to hang up, and you want something that'll bend a little bit where you can get it back. You don't want to constantly be like, all right, I shot it in there and I hit a cross member, or I shot it in there and I hung it on various things, because sometimes we'll shoot a jig into places and I'll tell Jessica, I was like, we're either going to catch a fish or be tying a jig on next. And I'm hoping that we catch a fish, because when you hook a fish, it will get its way out of there. Or you're pulling a jig out of something, it's finding wood.
I remember Scott Williams, I think he was on Seminole, when he laid on his belly and took that 11, 12-foot rod, pulled his jig to the end of the rod and stuck it under there. And I remember Eric Cagle telling me a story when a Grenada somewhere flooded Mississippi. He said he seen some big fish in a bush. There was no way to cast. He took his rod and pulled that jig straight to the end of the rod, stuck it in the hole and let it down and caught the fish. I think he said it was a 2-pound fish. It was crazy, but there's all kinds of ways.
At Okeechobee, they do that a lot. They'll have those long poles and have it pulled out. They'll shove it in those reeds and ease it down, and they'll retrieve it like that a lot of times. They'll bring it all the way back up to the eyelet, take it, ease it back out.
I've seen them do that in those big bull rushes and those big canes.
Yeah.
Todd's saying, what size jig head you usually shoot docks with?
30 seconds or a 16th.
Yeah, that's your number. I appreciate Todd tuning in tonight. He's up there on Gunnersville.
It's hard to get. You can't really get an 8th to skip. And
no, it hits like a ton of bricks.
If you want to go to the back of a dock, that 30 seconds and that 16th, you want to get some skip.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it, guys, when that thing skips, you can see those fish. Yeah. You can see those fish look up. They see that thing skipping. They're like, hey, something got my attention. And sometimes it's a rat race to get that bait. Man, we got 60 people tuned in tonight. 40 likes.
Kevin just said 24th. That's probably the the happy medium, that 24.
Right. I don't throw any of those. I need to.
Well, yeah. And then a lot of people don't realize that, there's certain things that will skip better. That when you got that plastic, or
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
there's certain things that will skip. I mean, because if anybody's ever thrown a stone and you got it to skip, if you've got, here's the water and here's your rod, if you've got them parallel with each other and you shoot that jig and it hits right there at the right point, and whenever it hits, there's a thing you can do with your reel, and it's, I don't know how to really explain it without showing somebody like in real life, but you can kind of like back that reel up a little bit, and it gives, like, it frees that line up and it allows it to skip on up under.
You throw a couple loops off that spool and it's giving.
It does. It's like when it hits, you go just back up just a little bit like that.
You shoot it here in front of you, and then you're backing it up, towards your waist. You're exactly right. That's a good tip. I don't know how we always run into some good topics on this thing. You guys helping us ask questions. We always hit some good topics on this, which is awesome. So, like, we got into the jig shooting stuff, and that wasn't even on the notes, but we appreciate it. Man, there's 61 people on here. I hate to cut it off now. They're asking questions. Yeah, I do have notes. Look, I got notes. Look, I pulled a John.
Notes.
Well, I just try to remember,
You got to cut my pay.
But, the good thing about it, it's easy to talk about something you're passionate about. We say that every week.
Right.
It's easy, and you guys help asking questions. Y'all are just as much part of the show as we are, because it's easy to do when most of these guys are a friend and they know what to cut a jig and they know what to skip, and they just helping us carry the show along, and we appreciate them big time. So we've been on here an hour and 6 minutes. God, it flies by, man. Why can't, treadmill time does not do this. I know I know when my fat butt's on the treadmill, it does not go by like that, because I look up and it's 10 minutes and I'm like, man, I'm ready to get off here. But we'll get into some more topics, guys. Me and John's going to do an in-depth show on mapping soon. I've got some pictures. We're going to get prepared for it. John had to go deliver a boat this week, so he had to go to Texas. Drove down and came back, and hopefully everybody has a great holiday weekend, man. Get out there and catch some fish. Send us some pictures. John them's going mullet fishing. I'm headed to, I got a trip Saturday, and I'm going to go out and try to scare a few fish myself and shoot a few birds down there with Big Daddy and get out there. It's supposed to be some nice weather. It's supposed to be in the 80s, man. I'm sure Eric and Jameson and them, they got guide trips all weekend, so I'll be looking forward to seeing them.
We're going to get our toenails did, because after you spend about a half a day on that sandbar with your toenails dug in the sandbar, it's a special color that you come back with.
I believe it. I appreciate everybody tuning in. 63 people. Hey, if you haven't watched, welcome to CrappieKast, guys. We appreciate y'all watching.
Please
John and Jessica, as always, please come back, guys. That's right, Freddie. Take a kid fishing. That's exactly right, man.
Amen.
Appreciate everybody. We're going to end this show, like I said, spend time with your family, eat dinner, whatever. We do this every Thursday at 7 p.m. We're live, and it's really unscripted, guys, and it's fun. So appreciate y'all tuning in, and see you, John and Jessica. Y'all hang out. See Eric and everybody that's watching. Good luck to everybody fishing. Hey, man, message me if you got any questions. Message John. There's old Brad Deal right there. We were just talking about him, and I appreciate him tuning in. See you guys. See y'all next week.